What's up, everyone? It's Dakota, and today we're going to be going over a deck that back in the day when Pioneer was kind of just trying to get its legs underneath of itself, this was one of the two best decks in the format. There was Hidden Strings combo, and then there was the Reality Shifter BS, or whatever they wanted to call it. That deck sucked. Definitely wasn't that great. Spoiler, it was actually really awesome. But Hidden Strings to me was kind of like the most fun of like the degenerate combo things that you could do in the format back before Underworld Breach got banned. This deck was just insane. So today we're going to be showing you a version of the deck that actually survived that banning and kind of get some sweet tools to play with. But before I dive into Hidden Strings for the Pioneer format, I would greatly appreciate it if you're watching and you're not currently subscribed that you subscribe to my channel. I'd appreciate the support immensely. Helps grow the channel, reach out to more people, and just kind of keep that chain going. I like making these kinds of videos. I would love it if we could get more people into the community, I guess, that we're trying to create here. Also, leave a like. Probably doesn't do anything for you, but it definitely gets the happy juices flowing in my brain. So let's take a look at the Hidden Strings deck. I've stalled long enough to push this video up to 8 minutes, even though I'll talk for like 26 of those. So the Hidden Strings deck, essentially what it's trying to do, it's trying to get a card called Lotus Field onto the battlefield. Enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you sacrifice 2 lands, and then it taps for 3 mana of any one color. It has hexproof, so it really can't be disrupted by like Field of Ruin and things like that. Or just specifically like land destruction spells, which is nice when you obviously, sacrifice 2 other lands to put this land into play. So once you get one of these into play, you obviously need 2 more lands. Getting ahead of myself, you need 2 lands before this thing can really do anything, or else you have to sacrifice it if it's one of only 2 lands that you have, or whatever. To do that, you can like start off like turn 1 a Boreal Grazer to put one of your any of your other lands into play. And then like your second turn that you would play a land, you would be your third land. You just play a Lotus Field, clean up the other 2 things. And then once you get a Lotus Field into play, you want to copy it with Thespian Stage. Since Thespian Stage doesn't have to enter the battlefield as a copy of like Lotus Field, you just get all the benefits of Lotus Field without having the drawback of having to sacrifice lands. That opens up for some pretty crazy things, considering that you have cards like Vizier Tumbling Stance, where if you just have 1 Lotus Field, you add 3 blue, cycle it for a blue and 1. You have a blue floating. Vizier untaps the permanent, the Lotus Field, and you essentially now have 4 mana to play with on your turn. Hidden Strings, you can tap or untap a target permanent, and then you may tap or untap another target permanent. This obviously works best when you have either 2 Lotus Fields or Lotus Field plus a Thespian Stage copying Lotus Field, because then this, you float 6 mana with it, go down to 4 to cast Hidden Strings, untap it. Now you have 10 mana at your disposal with the Lotus Field mana, pending. Um, some of the other cards, Leer, your spells can't be countered. Its sorcerers in your graveyard have flashback. This is essentially, to me, kind of the replacement for Underworld Breach. Even though Underworld Breach kind of let you just keep casting the cards, you honestly, once you cast like Hidden Strings a bunch of times, you were able to just kill your opponent anyway. So just the fact that you could keep churning through your deck and looking for them and continue to cast them 2 times essentially for each copy that you have, you'll generate enough mana to win the game. The last card is Fave Wishes, which has the adventure half of it being you could choose a non-creature card you own from outside the game. You reveal it, put it in your hand. It also blocks really well as a 1/4 against like the red decks. You can discard 2 cards, return to your hand, so you can wish for another card. Which real quickly, when it specifies non-creature, you have like Beseiju, March, Natural State, Pithing Needle, Fries, Mystical Dispute, Path of Peril. I actually think like all of these cards are non-creatures. Yeah, so you have many different ways that you can win the game. Um, just in the sideboard alone. In the main deck, you have card like Emergent Ultimatum, to win the game, which you can search for up to 3 monocolor cards with different names. You exile them. Your opponent chooses one of those cards. You shuffle that card in your library, and you cast the other two without paying their mana cost. So you can essentially get cards like Mastermind's Acquisition, Behold the Beyond, and Omniscience. Your opponent chooses one of those cards, shuffle it back in. Essentially, if you get an Omniscience into play off of this, you basically just want to cast like a bunch of spells. Behold the Beyond lets you search your library for 3 specific cards and put them into your hand. You could just eventually make enough mana with like Hidden Strings and Lotus Fields that you could just hard cast an Omniscience and essentially continue to go off from there. Speaking of Pour Over Pages is another spell that will untap your lands, and it has the added bonus letting you draw 3 cards. If you're untapping 2 Lotus Fields with this, you are netting on mana, and then you're actually drawing 3 and discarding a card. Uh, Before we would play a card like Shimmer Possibility, it would see 1 less card, but it would actually put the rest of them in the graveyard, called Strategic Planning. Shimmer Possibility, the fact that like we don't care that that cards are in the graveyard, aside from like Bala Get Recovery. Shimmer Possibility is better just because it digs 1 card deeper, and the rest go into your bottom of your library in a random order. Doesn't really matter. Sylvan Scrying lets you find either the Thespian stage or the Lotus Field that you're possibly missing. Also has some utility now that we have some of these lands like Otawara. Can also get you a Blast Zone or a Boseiju as well to obviously do Boseiju things. Otawara to bounce like Planeswalkers and things like that. Notably, Teferi Time Raveler because it does stop cards like Emergent Ultimatum. Um, I think that's really it. That's probably like the only card really stops, but like that's like a key thing. Like when you cast this card, you're probably winning the game. Um, but mainly like Sylvan Scrying a lot of the time I would feel like is getting Thespian stage just so you can set up 2 Lotus Fields and really start to go off. Um, and yeah, that's that's the Hidden Strings deck. Interesting to note, like a deck like this before would just play like Jace Wielder of Mystery after it just milled itself by constantly casting Pour Over Pages and netting mana and continuing to go through the steps and everything, playing the other card that is not Shimmer Possibility to keep fueling your graveyard to the point where you just got to search for Jace, activate, and win the game, or just still continue to cast Pour Over Pages and win the game that way. But now it has this interesting dynamic where like its sideboard is just its own full thing. Notably not playing Ugin anymore. Playing Approach to the Second Sun, opting for that as like a win condition is really cool. I love playing Approach Control back when it was legal and standard. So the fact that like this card kind of gets its second sun, if you will, uh, really great. Um, and a card that obviously, if you have like a Leer in play and things like that, getting like Pour Over Pages and Hidden Strings or Shimmer of Possibility, you can get to approach really quickly. And with the plethora of ways to like untap your lands and like Bala Get Recovery to pick cards up, because even Bala Get Recovery plus Hidden Strings does actually net you mana. So like getting to approach the second sun is really easy. Playing against a control deck, you can just search for Thought Distortion, get rid of all your opponent's non-creature, non-land cards from that player's hand and graveyard. You actually exile those cards, so then you don't have to worry about like counter spells to fairies, things like that. Lane Sanctity probably comes in against the burn matchup. Path of Peril, small creature decks. Obviously, for 3 mana, it can kill all creatures with mana value 2 or less. Easy to get up to 6 mana, and easy to basically make whatever color you want with Lotus Field or Lotus Fields. So there's a time that this could just become a 6 mana Wrath of God. Mystical Dispute for like the control decks. Fry for, you know, Teferi. Really like any of like the like control deck, like Planeswalkers and some of their other like possible white or blue threats. Pithing Needle. Pithing Needle can name Thespian Stage to stop, or no, yeah, it can name a card. It can't still activate mana abilities. So Thespian Stage can get named with this. I don't believe this actually works with no, never mind. It doesn't work with the lands. I'm just jonesing. You can stop like Blast Zone, things like that. Obviously, there is other activated abilities in Pioneer that this would be really good against, but like these are the ones that specifically for the mirror. Natural state, obviously, you want to be able to cast your cards from like the graveyard and stuff. Natural state gets rid of those cards that want to kind of stop you. Gets rid of cards like Damping Sphere, which can hurt your Lotus fields and things like that. And this card's just easily searchable, obviously, with like Fae of Wishes, also a card that you can bring in, search with Mastermind's Acquisition, and that. Swirl, exile up to X target creatures phase out. Obviously, any of like the super aggressive decks, you just pay a blue plus like pitch a blue card. Getting rid of two creatures is really nice. Any more mana paid into it can like just blank your whole opponent's team. And a Beseiju in the sideboard, kind of like for the same reason as Natural State, but just if for some reason you can't cast Natural State, you can cast Beseiju to get rid of your opponent's threats. And honest to goodness, that is it. The Hidden Strings combo deck. As I said earlier, this deck was kind of hit with a ban like a long time ago with the Underworld Breach getting banned. They're just giving it kind of like that same power. Obviously, it gives it flashback, so when you cast it for its flashback cost, the card gets exiled. But really, you're just kind of like going off at that point. You're just gonna cast all these spells, kind of like how Storm does, like in Modern back in the day, and just eventually cast a critical mass of spells, resolve enough emergent ultimatums, or go search your sideboard for like approach and things like that, and just win the game. Um, I really like this deck just from like the different ways that you can win the game, and obviously they're all matchup dependent on the context of the board and everything like that. And I really like that. I think typically searching your sideboard can be a lot of fun. Um, and even though these search like I win cards, they're not like Karn plus 4 mana Karn plus like Lattice like win the game necessarily, but um, in at least to me in the realm of like fun and stuff, especially if like you're the person doing it. I think it's really cool to watch it go off if you've never seen it go off, and when you're the person playing it, it always just feels kind of like a puzzle that you have to solve every time. So that's the Hidden Strings deck. I really like this deck. I implore anyone to play it just because it does a really cool thing. I think it's really sweet. And if you think it's really sweet, you should totally leave a comment and tell me that you think it's really sweet. Also, leave a like, share the video if you enjoyed it as well. Consider subscribing if you have not already. And I hope to see you all in the next video where I talk about some more Pioneer and Modern stuff and things. I don't know, you just have to subscribe and possibly ring the bell and find out what's next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.